Hello, welcome to day 26 on this 31-day journey through the book of Proverbs. Today we look at chapter 26. I encourage you to read it before you watch this video. There's a lot of the same topics and themes that we've seen in the previous 25 chapters kind of weave through here. And one of them that stuck out to me was the idea of fools. And we've seen foolishness and foolish people and the characteristics, the descriptions, the actions of them throughout this book. We know from verse 1 that honor is no more associated with fools than snow with summer, right? So fools are not associated with honor. We know that they despise wisdom. Foolish people are right in their own eyes. Foolish people are deceitful. They're scornful. They're not trustworthy. But if you looked at verse 4 and 5, and I hope these grabbed your attention, they seem a little bit like a contradiction. At face value, if you read them, it says, don't answer the foolish arguments of fools. So don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are. Makes sense. Then verse 5, be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they will become wise in their own estimation. Now this sounds contradictory because verse 4 says, don't answer the foolish arguments of fools. Verse 5 says, be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools. So how do we discern the truth of this, and how does that apply to us? What do we do with this? Well, think about an argument with a foolish person. When you get into an argument with somebody who maybe we're the foolish person in the example we're thinking about, right? Because we've all done this. But our argument, the case we're making, that is maybe irrational, maybe too emotionally driven. There's not a lot of construction, the facts. There's not a lot of data to support the argument. So we're just making a case based on maybe emotions or feelings or some distorted view of a reality. And we can easily get drawn into these arguments with people, and we want to correct their foolishness, and then we start going back and forth. And in the end, all we are is frustrated and aggravated, and so are they. So we can understand the verse 4 and how it applies. Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you'll become as foolish as they are, because we've all been on both sides of this, I'm sure, where we've gotten into an argument with a fool and then felt foolish after. And sometimes we've been the fool who started an argument with somebody else and brought them in, and then you both feel foolish when it's over. And I think what happens in those cases it's like emotional bidding at an auction. If you've ever been to an auction, there's value on an item, and an educated buyer would know what it's worth, and the bidding starts right low and starts to go up. And normally when it gets near the value, people stop bidding because nobody wants to pay more than what it's worth. But you get emotional bidders, people who just want something and they no longer care about the value of it. They start bidding each other, right? This is what auctioneers love. They love to get, emotional bidders to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then it just becomes this game of, I want it, so you don't get it. And the winner is the seller and the auctioneer in the end. And I think this is what happens when we start to argue with fools, is now it's just, I just want to win. I want to win. I just don't want you to win. And we can see how quickly that can degrade. Then we look at verse 5. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they'll become wise in their own estimation. So if we don't correct them, if we don't argue, if we don't refute what they're saying, then they're going to feel like they're right, like there's wisdom in what they're saying. So how do we discern whether to answer the fools or to not answer the fools? Because if we answer them, we become foolish. If we don't answer them, then they think they're wise. And I think that, this is a matter of discernment in a situation, and a lot of commentators would agree that this is based on, this is the book of wisdom. So how should we apply the wisdom to a certain situation in an argument with a person? Do we take on the argument, or do we not take on the argument? Do we let this one go, or do we make a case? The challenge, I think, is that sometimes we feel like we just got to get the last word, and we need to remember that to be wise, to use wisdom and discernment, we don't need to get the last word. We just want to make sure we give the right word. And when we argue with a fool on their level, we become foolish. So the caution, I think, in verse 4 is to not allow our emotions and our feelings to change our position. and just get into this back and forth just because I want to get the last word. I just want to win. I just want you to lose. I want to be right. I want you to be wrong. And those things never end. So we need to be cautious about how we address, a person in a situation like that. Arguing with a fool in a fool's way makes us a fool. So we don't want to go down that slippery slope. But be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they will become wise in their own estimation. There are times where a word of correction needs to be stated. And we need to do that in a way where our posture doesn't change. Where this isn't about emotion. This isn't about me being right and you being wrong. This isn't about me winning and you losing. This is about the truth. And I think the creativity of this proverb, of these two verses, is to use the words of the fool, to take his or her argument and show them by their own words that they're wrong. To be able to use wisdom to show them how logically or truthfully this argument that they're making, this case that they're making, isn't correct. It's not right. So using their own words to show that. It's to argue with them with their words makes us foolish. I think what's wise is to use their words to show them their errors. Either way, it takes wisdom and patience to not get emotional and drawn into looking like a fool because we're driven by this human nature we have to be right and to want to win. So I encourage you to, as you approach a situation, to prayerfully consider first if you should even engage with the argument. If it does need corrected, then to use wisdom to show them the error by their own words. So I hope this encourages you a little bit, and I look forward to day 27 and seeing you tomorrow.